Coming up on today's edition of NFL Daily, we'll break down the Brandon Aiyuk trade request and some potential destinations for the Niners star receiver, and just what's going on with the Davante Adams trade rumors, agent response, etc. on today's show. And we are 781 subscribers away from 380K. The NFL coverage is now set to ramp back up. After all, we are just over 2 weeks away from our first preseason game. How about that? Hit that sub button for more free NFL YouTube videos. Let's get to the latest on Brandon Aiyuk, by far the number one NFL storyline today. Aiyuk has officially requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers after an offseason of drama that has just been borderline nonstop out of San Francisco. Mike Garafolo breaking that news a couple hours ago, saying that Aiyuk has officially requested a trade after an offseason of unsuccessful attempts to reach an extension. Despite a recent meeting, the Niners haven't been willing to engage in negotiations since May. So Aiyuk has respectfully asked out, a.k.a. that information came from the agent. I think that one was pretty clear. About 40 minutes later, Schefter with the news update, and this one coming from San Francisco's side. Other teams that have reached out and spoken to San Francisco have been told the Niners have no intention of trading disgruntled wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who officially has requested a trade. The Niners open training camp next week. Now, do remember, folks, this is not the first time the Niners have had a really, really good wide receiver who's trying to get paid, who has requested a trade. This is how they tend to operate. They get those deals done in August. I think sometimes not the proper way to go about it. Big factor in why this is happening. The last reported offer from the Niners to Aiyuk was around $26 million per year. However, that's not going to get it done in today's contract market. It's simply not going to. That is not top 5 money at the wide receiver position. It's just not. You have to give him at least that Amon-Ra St. Brown figure of $30 million per year, because Jalen Waddle, A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Justin Jefferson, everyone but Tyreek Hill, got a new contract this offseason. The market has changed. $26 million is a low ball. If I were Aiyuk's camp, I wouldn't take that either. I would be demanding that $30 million price tag. So what's going to give? Something has to happen. We'll go more in depth on this, but what do you think the Niners will eventually end up doing with Brandon Aiyuk? T for they're going to trade him. P for they'll pay him. K for they'll keep him, a.k.a. do nothing right now. Get those answers in at the pinned comment. T, P, or K. Let's break down where things sit with the Niners and their control over Brandon Aiyuk and what he might be looking for from a guaranteed money perspective. Aiyuk is owed $14.12 million on his 5th-year option. That's the money due this year. The projected 2025 franchise tag is just under $25 million. The 2026 second tag, using that figure, 120% worth of it per the NFL CBA, would be just under $69 million per year. So that is your minimum baseline guaranteed money he's going to accept, because you're going to get the 2024 year guaranteed, 2025, 2026, and frankly, probably a portion of 2027. And that's how you get into the top 5 highest paid guaranteed money figure. Probably going to get closer at that point to number 3 for the Amon-Ra St. Brown figure. And frankly, I think giving him if Aiyuk wants to take the Amon-Ra St. Brown deal, I think that's a fair offer. I'm a big fan of the Sun God. Praise him. But I think Aiyuk's a better player. If I were the 49ers, I would get that deal done. Whether that means I move on from Debo now or in a year, it's fine. Aiyuk, in a fairly small sample size of targets in the offense, has been remarkably productive. He is a better pure receiver than anyone else is on that roster. He is incredibly good. I think he's in that top 10 wide receiver conversation, just like how Amon-Ra St. Brown is. Is he Justin Jefferson? No. But it sounds like he's not asking for Justin Jefferson money. I think he's not that far behind A.J. Brown. I'd be okay paying him over 30. Then the Niners have had a pretty big, hefty payroll. That's fine. But got to pay your good players, right? We'll look at some destinations here for Aiyuk momentarily. But who do you think Aiyuk will play for in 2024? Drop that team name for me in the comments of today's show. Number 5, and they would have been higher on this list had they not taken Malik Nabers at in the first round, is the New York Football Giants. Aiyuk has been linked to them previously. He was doing the whole liking edits of him in a Giants jersey. Would be a huge boost to the 49ers offense, or the Giants offense if they got him. One big issue here, if you're the Niners, and if you do trade him, you are asking for a first and third round pick, the A.J. Brown trade, right? Well, guess what? The Giants can't trade that first round pick, because even with Aiyuk, that might be a top 5 pick. They cannot give that one up. One of my favorite under-the-radar fits are the Detroit Lions. Now, paying Amon-Ra St. Brown and Brandon Aiyuk $40 million or $30 million per year is probably not feasible for them from a actual budgeting perspective. They could do it if they really, really wanted to. Make that receiving core pretty damn fun. Go all in right now. It's fun. Number 3 is the Patriots. And I think there is a pretty clear-cut top 3, by the way. They run into the same issue as the Giants. Would they really give up that potential top 5, top 10 pick? But they don't have a number 1 for Drake May. They've got some intriguing young pieces. They don't have a superstar. He'd be a great fit on New England. Number 2 is the Commanders. Maybe why the Patriots are a good sign-and-trade team. The Commanders have Jaden Daniels, who, of course, spent time with Brandon Aiyuk at Arizona State all those years ago. They're still pretty good buddies. They've been hanging out together still. I think Aiyuk would love to play with him. I don't know if they need another wide receiver. They have options there. Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin. They drafted Luke McCaffrey. But that connection cannot be overlooked. And, of course, number 1, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers have been hot and heavy after wide receivers this offseason. They could use a superstar caliber player, pay Brandon Aiyuk, pair him with George Pickens. That's a really fun combination. I do think the trade value at minimum would have to be a first-round pick, because we have a very long history of players at wide receiver going for a first-round pick. Hollywood Brown, a first. They also give up a third-round pick. Tyreek Hill, a first, second, and more. A.J. Brown, a first and third. Devonte Adams, a first and a second. OBJ, a first, a third, and Jabril Peppers. Stephon Diggs, a first, and a couple day 3 picks. Hopkins, the David Johnson trade, was hilarious. Amari Cooper was a first. Brandon Cooks went for a first and more multiple times. No reason not to expect, if a trade does happen, the Niners not to get at least a first-round pick. Now, NFL rookie jerseys are available, including Caleb Williams, who is now signed. J.J. McCarthy, as of filming, has not yet signed. Get the rookie jersey for your favorite team's pick over at chatsports.com/NFL jersey. That link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's chatsports.com/NFL jersey. You got to sort to find your team. Like the offensive line guy isn't going to be up there early, but others will. Let's talk Davante Adams. So this was started by Aaron Rodgers, who made public comments at the celebrity golf event out in Lake Tahoe, I think it is, on Davante Adams. He said, quote, "I love Davante. Can't wait to play with him." Long pause. Again, what do you mean there, Aaron? And then you had kind of some interesting conversations that emerged from Boomer Esiason on Davante Adams, saying, quote, "I'm not sure about why it would take that long, but Davante is never going to come out publicly and say, I want to leave the Raiders. But you hear in this receiver program when he says, I got to get out of here because I get killed. He says that. That leads the viewer to believe that he wants out of Vegas. I don't see him saying that publicly. I could see him saying to his agent, like he did in Green Bay, the same type of thing. Now, to be clear, the Davante Adams receiver conference was he hated Josh McDaniels. Couldn't stand him. Right? What I found very interesting right before we went live today, this from Adam Schefter, the statement from Davante Adams' agents, Kenny Chapman and Frank Bauer, on the trade talk around their client. This is baseless, unfounded speculation, and Davante is expected to be with the Raiders as there has been absolutely no trade talk period. It is actually very rare to see a statement like this. You don't normally have that come out. Most of the time, the player agent just chooses to ignore it. Or the player will send out the, y'all believe anything type of tweet, right? I think the way that quote was framed by the agent, by the way, I think Schefter called the agent and got that response because he kind of like specified something there. Now, are you buying that or are you selling that? Do you think the Raiders will trade Davante Adams? Y for yes, N for no in the comments section. Look, Adams will be 32 years old this year. I actually question how much he would be worth in a trade. I don't think he gets dealt. I do, or at least I have heard, that the Jets were trying to get him last year at the deadline to eventually pair with Aaron Rodgers. Of course, they ended up saying no from that perspective. And the Raiders kind of did the whole fire Josh McDaniels to keep Devonte Adams, which I think was for the best there. Now, Boomer Esiason has also kind of caused issues with this. We mentioned the other part of his quote. Here was the original part of it, saying the dead cap for the Raiders here is $40 million if they trade him. I'm hearing that this is going to happen if it does happen, which I think people kind of forgot about the if it does happen part, in late August or early September, and the cap hit for them is then $25 million. Part of the reason why I ain't buying what Boomer's selling is he's wrong about the money. Not accurate. What he listed was the dead cap figure. That is what he laid out there. And the dead cap, if cut, it is not the same as the dead cap if he ends up getting traded. Now, we'll break down the actual money there, but it's pretty sizable differences. By the way, the change from 40 to 25 happened on July 1st. It's that whole post-June 1st, transition. Already happened, right? And so here's what the Adams contract actually is. He's owed $25.35 million on the cap if he plays for the Raiders. $17.5 if he's traded to somewhere else like the Jets or whoever. The Raiders would have a dead cap hit of $7.85 if they trade him. That saves $17.5 million this year. There's $15.75 million in dead money next year if they do trade him, which is still almost $30 million in savings because there is a decision to be made next offseason with Davante Adams. He has a $44 million cap hit. There's zero guaranteed money. The way the Raiders have set up this contract, it is time, quite simply, to either pay him or extend him or move on and trade or cut him. You're not going to bring him back on his current cap hit. Doesn't make any sense. Save the big money. He's 32 years old. He's been playing really well, though. You don't have to be on it if you don't want to. Decision-making time there, however. So we'll see what happens next offseason with Davante Adams, but a change is coming. That could be as simple as an extension, but they're not going to just let him come back on a $44 million cap hit.